Alright, greeting mathematicians. Welcome back to another math video. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about multiplying decimals. Okay, so if you are following my spiral notebook notes, you can go ahead and copy down what I have written here. So at the very top, title of your page, multiplying decimals. I like to include a goal for each lesson. That way you guys know what to expect, and then you can look at the goal after the lesson. You can look at the goal, think about, hey, can I actually do this? If not, then maybe you might need a little bit of practice, and that's okay. But it's just to give you a little bit of a check-in. All right, so our goal is in this lesson, I will learn how to multiply decimals using the standard algorithm and an area model. So if you remember in the last lesson with adding decimals, we used a standard algorithm to add them. So there is a standard algorithm for multiplying as well. But I wanted to start off with the area model first. Now, I will say that the area model can take a little time. And so as you get more proficient with multiplying decimals, as you get better with multiplying decimals, you might not need the area model anymore. But the area model is a great place to start off because it literally shows you what's happening with the math, what is happening with the decimals when you multiply them together. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So notice how I split my square into 10 pieces, right? I'm going to go ahead and fill in 8 of these. So I'll just shade them in really quick. So there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, how would I represent this picture as a decimal? Well, notice that, remember, I said that I split my square into 10 equal pieces. So if 8 of those 10 pieces are filled in, I can say, hey, well, this right here, this amount right here is 8/10, which I write like this. Perfect. Okay, now what I'm going to do, because we're talking about multiplying, I need another number to multiply by. So I'm going to split my square going horizontally this time, going from left to right. I'm going to split it also into 10 pieces. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and I continue going until I get all the way to 10 pieces. Now I know this looks like a mess right now, but just wait 1 second. I promise it'll start to happen. The magic will start to happen. Okay, so I'm going to say that I want 6/10 of this. So I'm going to fill in 6 of these red skinny rectangles here. There we go. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, this is probably going to look very familiar to our brownie pans that you guys have seen back when we were in school. It's really the same exact concept here. So I'll say this, it's 6 out of 10, so that's 6/10, which I write like this. So now what I need to do is, well, how are these things being multiplied? Well, how is this picture showing us these are being multiplied together? Well, first of all, we need to talk about how many total squares are there now? After I split my big purple square into these sections, how many are there? You're probably saying there are 100 total squares inside. Now, we also need to think about, well, where does the 6/10 and the 8/10 overlap? If you're doing this with actual pen and not on an iPad like I am, your colors will definitely have mixed together. And you will notice that wherever your red and blue squares overlap, you'll get, oh, well, maybe not perfectly purple, but you'll get quite a bit of purple. And if you count those squares, you'll notice that there are 48 squares in that purple section there. So 48 squares out of 100 total squares. I can read that as 48 hundredths. So if I have 0.6 or 6 tenths, and I'm multiplying it by 8 tenths, that equals 48 hundredths, which I write like this. Ooh, I'm running out of space. And there we go. So, as I mentioned before, the area model can take quite a bit of time, especially if you don't have a square to begin with, because then you have to draw your square, then you have to split it into a certain number of sections. It can get really messy. But like I said before, this is a great way to visualize what is happening with multiplying decimals. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get into the standard algorithm. So there are a few steps that we should know before starting this. So the first step, you're going to count the number of digits to the right of the decimal. And you're going to do this for both numbers. I'll put that in parentheses. So for both numbers. Okay. Second step. Actually, let me change colors here. Second step. You're going to treat the numbers like whole numbers and ignore the decimal place, okay, or ignore the decimals. Treat the numbers like whole numbers. And then you're going to multiply. Okay, so second step, you're going to ignore the decimal place, okay? You're going to, I keep saying decimal place, decimal point is what I mean to say. You're going to ignore the decimal point and multiply as if they're whole numbers, okay? The very last step is to put the decimal point back into the answer. Or we know that the answer to a multiplication problem is called a product. So put the decimal point back into the product. And let's take a look at some examples. So number one, I want to multiply 52 hundredths. My challenge to you guys is to read these decimals formally or mathematically correct. Instead of saying 0.52, let's say 52 hundredths. Instead of saying 0.48, we're going to say 48 hundredths. Okay, and we're going to multiply these two things together. So step one, it says count the number of digits to the right of the decimal. So how many digits are to the right of the decimal point in 52 hundredths? There are 2. And we'll label these as decimal places. How many are to the right of 48 hundredths? There are also 2. So when you get your answer, right, we're going to write our answer here. When you get your answer, we're going to add these two numbers together. So you should have a total of 4 decimal places in your answer. Now let's take a look at what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and multiply these numbers. Remember, step 2, which we are on right now, step 2 is treat the numbers like whole numbers and multiply. So For the multiplying part, I can ignore this, and it's like I'm multiplying 52 times 48. So let's go ahead and see what happens. So 8 times 2 is 16, carry the 1. 8 times 5 is 40, add 1, so that's 41. There we go. And then now I need to put in a placeholder 0. Now multiply the 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 5 is 20. And then add these two things together. I am running out of space. I'm gonna move all the way over here. So I'm gonna rewrite what I have. So 2, 0, 8, 0. Add those two things together. So that is 6 plus 0 is 6, 1 plus 8 is 9, 4 plus 0 is 4, and then 2 plus 0 is 2. So this is supposed to be my final answer, but we are forgetting the last step. The last step is to put the decimal point back into this product. And remember, we need 4 decimal places. So remember, with whole numbers, the decimal place is always to the right. Always, always, always. For whole numbers, the decimal place is always to the right. Okay, so now I'm going to move it 4 decimal places to the left. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. So my decimal point should be right there. I caught myself, I almost hit place again. So my final answer is, let's see, this is the tenths, this is the hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So 2,496 10,000ths. Whew, that one was tricky. But there we go. Whoops. And that is my final answer. Let's look at another example. I'm going to multiply 16 and 6/10 by 7 and 1/10. So, first step, count the number of digits to the right of the decimal. So here I have 1 decimal place, only 1 digit. In 7 and 1/10, I only have 1 decimal place. So when I write my final answer, I should have, remember, add these together, I should have 2 decimal places. I need to move my decimal 2 places. Alright, now, let's go ahead and multiply. Remember, we're going to ignore the decimal points for now and pretend that we're multiplying whole numbers. Alright, let's see. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 6 again is also 6. 1 times 1 is 1. There we go. And now I'm going to do the next digit over. So I'm 7. 7 times 6 is 42. Let me put a placeholder. Hold on. There we go. 7 times 6 is 42. Carry the 4. Put the 2 down below. 7 times 6 is 42 again. 42 plus 4 is 46. Carry the 4. Drop the 6. 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 4 is 11. Now, add these together. So we have 6 plus 0 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. 6 plus 1 is 7. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. And there we go. All right. You almost have your answer. You're not quite there yet. Remember, place the decimal point on the very right of the number. Now, we need to move the decimal point 2 decimal places over. So I'm going to move it to the left 1 and 2. So my final answer should be 117 and 86 hundredths. And there you go. All right, let's walk through it one more time. Does that sound good? All right, question number 3. We're going to do 3 and 8 hundredths. And we're going to multiply that by 8 and 9/10. I hope you guys notice that my decimal points, look at where they are. Are they lined up? No, they are not. So if you guys want to add that note in here, with multiplication, do our decimal points need to be lined up? No, they do not. Only with addition and subtraction. Okay? So for multiplication, our decimal points do not need to line up. Okay, there we go. Now I have it written down. Okay, so let's walk through our steps. First step, count the digits to the right of each decimal. So in 3 and 800ths, I have 2 decimal places. In 8 and 9/10ths, I only have 1 number to the right of the decimal, so I have 1 decimal place. You're going to take these 2 numbers and add them together, so your answer should have 3 decimal places. All right. Let me erase these highlights here. There we go. Okay, now let's multiply. Remember, you can ignore the decimal points for now. Let's multiply like they're whole numbers. 9 times 8. Ooh, that's 72. So I'm going to carry the 7, drop the 2. 9 times 0 is 0, and I have to add 7, so I'm going to just drop the 7 there. 9 times 3 is 27. There we go, first part done. All right, next digit over. 8 times 8 is 64. I carry the 6, and I drop the 4. I forgot my placeholder. There we go, placeholder. 8 times 8 is 64, drop the 4, carry the 6. 8 times 0 is 0, but 0 plus 6 is 6. And then the last one, 8 times 3 is 24. Let's add these together. 2 plus 0 is 2, 7 plus 4 is 11, so I carry the 1. 7 plus 6 is 13, plus 1 is 14, drop the 4, carry the 1. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and then 2 plus 0 is 2. All right, but remember, don't forget the last step. You need to move the decimal 3 decimal places. Place the decimal to the very right side of your number, and then we're going to move it to the left 3 decimal places. 1, 2, 3. So your final answer should be 27 and 412 thousandths. And there you have it. All right, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Anyway, I hope I hope this helped you guys out. If you have any questions, remember you always have access to your teachers during office hours. You can also send them emails with questions as well. All right, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.